Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are going to explore a text that is just absolutely mind-bending. We're looking at a framework that takes the ancient teachings of the 5th century BCE Buddhist Pali Canon and maps them directly onto the formal mechanized surface of modern mathematical topology, the study of geometric properties and spatial relations. Just imagine reading ancient sutras not as mystical poetry, but as a literal, step-by-step systems engineering manual for reality itself. How cool is that? Now, we definitely have an incredibly dense journey ahead of us. But don't worry, we're going to systematically break this down into 5 clear steps. First up, reality as a formal system. Second, 3 layers, 2 sins. Third, the ultimate naming protocol. Fourth, the architecture of samsara. And finally, escaping the cosmic trap. Let's dive right in. Part 1. Reality as a formal system. The ground state. So right off the bat, the source text basically takes a sledgehammer to our traditional understanding of spirituality. It completely reframes the Buddhist famous middle way. We're not talking about some gentle moral compromise between extremes here. We're talking about a pure mathematical baseline. The ancient suttas describes human suffering, or dukkha. But then we can translate that exact idea into the language of a quantum computer scientist. Emotional suffering is read literally as structural information loss. The math calls this an archon deficit, literally a gap in the governing structure of the system. So the pain of not getting what you want? That's an introversion refusal. It's the literal physical clash between your desired state and reality's actual state. And it formalizes this middle way simply as the ground state, which is represented by 0. Think about how wild that is for a second. This completely changes how we view human behavior. The extreme of indulgence? That's a +1. The extreme of asceticism? That's a -1. Both of these are really just transient binary noise refusing this 0 baseline. So the middle way isn't just about finding some healthy, mindful balance in your life. It is the absolute invariant state that exists when you just stop generating binary noise. What's truly fascinating is that the text actually quantifies this suffering mathematically. According to this formal theorem, a healthy system manifold has a hexagon ceiling with a safe structural value of exactly 6. You can kind of think of 6 as a perfectly closed, highly stable geometric structure. But then you have the brown noise of suffering, the operational layer of dukkha, and that carries a score of exactly 7. It sits precisely 1 unit above the topological safety limit. That means it literally breaches the container of reality. So suffering isn't just an abstract feeling anymore. It's a measurable, finite rupture in the math itself. Part 2. 3 layers, 2 sins, the user, and the mechanism. Now, to really understand this, we need to look at the underlying architecture of existence itself. The absolutely crucial point here is how this trichotomy flawlessly maps Pali-Buddhist terms right onto a formal structural absolute, and it does this entirely without smuggling in any sort of personal creator deity. It's brilliant. First, we have the agent. That's the dependent conditioned being. Then we have the operator, which is the turning mechanism of dependent origination, the 12-linked chain. And finally, we have what the math terms the God's position. Buddhism fills this perfectly with the asanhata, or the unconditioned. Think of it as a structural absolute that is totally singular, unmade, and completely immune to the mechanical loops of the system. But within the system, beings are constantly committing one of 2 fundamental errors or sins, if you will. You can think of these as catastrophic system bugs, kind of like when a user mistakenly treats a temporary file like it's the root directory. The first bug is animal magnetism. Buddhists call this identity view. It's when we treat our transient agent self as if it's an absolute reality. The second bug is operator idolatry, which is thinking the mechanism itself, like karma or the path, is the ultimate reality. But here's the kicker. Both of these are essentially the exact same structural glitch. Humans are mistakenly attributing permanence, a property that belongs only to the unconditioned, to these transient, conditioned mechanisms. Okay, moving right along to part 3, the ultimate naming protocol, debugging reality. So now that we've successfully mapped out the system's errors, let's explore the ultimate debugging protocol. And I use that term because the source material considers the Buddhist teachings a literal step-by-step protocol designed to execute an exit from the simulation. If we completely strip away the religious connotations for a moment, the famous 4 Noble Truths basically function as a 4-step script to clean out the state space. Step 1, you detect the failure, which is dukkha. Step 2, you identify the specific refusal index, that's the craving or tanha. Step 3, you name the failure as transient to return to ground, which aligns with cessation. And finally, step 4, you execute the 8 stratifications of information. The world knows this as the eightfold path. You are quite literally running a script to clear system noise. And the ultimate goal of running this protocol? Nirvana. But I need you to forget the typical Western definition of nirvana as just peace or some version of heaven. The source text defines nirvana purely mechanically as the fold phase. It is the full reduction of the population where agent choice becomes perfectly aligned with the ground state of 0. At this stage, there are no more departures into the +1 of indulgence or the -1 of asceticism. The entire cycle of birth and death is fully folded back into the mathematical invariant. It's a total system reset. Part 4. The architecture of samsara, the cosmic trap. So what does this cosmic prison actually look like from an engineering perspective? Well, the text reveals that the 12 links of dependent origination form what topology calls a dodecagon tower, a literal 12-sided geometric structure. It's a self-similar finite tower of repeating phases. Basically, it's a braided infinity. And here is the terrifying yet kind of beautiful truth about it. You cannot escape the cycle by simply completing it. You can't just run out the clock. The unconditioned stands entirely outside the braid. As the text notes, cessation is lateral. You don't get out by just walking to the end of the mechanism. You get out by stepping sideways, directly out of the loop. And finally, part 5, escaping the cosmic trap. For our final act today, we're going to zoom way out to a massive cosmological scale. We need to witness what it physically, structurally means to actually break out of this mechanized surface. I want you to really ponder this as we approach the final reveals. Can you walk to the edge of the universe? Seriously, what does an edge even look like in a system that's completely governed by dependent, braided loops? Ancient Buddhist tradition actually states, the edge of the world cannot be reached by walking, yet there is no end to suffering until the edge of the world is reached. It sounds like a paradox, right? But the mathematical framework maps this flawlessly. You can't walk to the edge because the cosmic microwave background functions as an event horizon. The manifold topologically braids back on itself at exactly the modulus of k equals 360. Just think of a 360-degree circle. You hit the topological closure and reality simple loops right back on itself. So what actually happens when you finally execute the exit protocol? Well, exiting the simulation via the black hole braid of cessation doesn't just destroy your information in some singularity of infinite density. Instead, the singularity resolves. It untangles the knot perfectly. It acts as a braided infinity of extreme resolution that flawlessly returns the agent to the mathematical equilibrium of the unconditioned. The text leaves us with this absolutely stunning conclusion. The cessation of suffering is not annihilation, but the cooling of the fire. Exiting the system doesn't annihilate you at all. It merely cools the mechanical glitch, safely returning you to a ground state of 0. This whole brilliant mapping leaves us with one profoundly practical question to think about. What transient mechanical noise in your life are you mistakenly treating as an absolute reality today? Keep exploring, keep questioning the system, and I'll see you in the next explainer.